Hello and welcome to Conversations with Nurit. I am Nurit, and today I have the great pleasure of speaking with Prajna Ginti. And Prajna is an international teacher, and she's also the author of the bestseller book called Edge of Grace. And I love by the way, the subtitle of it, which is A Fierce Awakening of Love. And I read your book, and I got to tell you, it's dripping with love. I love the book. You are an excellent writer. Your details are amazing. I just don't know how you could have remembered everything. I don't remember what I ate yesterday. And you have these details and details of the color of the mustache of one of the doctors, and it's just amazing to me. I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And
it's very much like a novel.
yes. But there's a lot underneath there's a tremendous depth to your book, and I could relate to it very well for two reasons. One is because we'll talk about it in a minute, so the audience will know what it's about. But my daughter went through a very similar experience to yours. Prajna had a pair of twins that were born prematurely, and you can talk about that a little bit later. And you write about the trials and tribulations that go with that. And I tell you, until my daughter had the similar experience with her first son, you don't know what it's like. People just don't know what that pain is like. The second reason I can relate to your book so well is because I admire you so much for being able to take a tragic situation, or a seemingly tragic situation, or painful situation, unexpected, shocking situation, and turn it into an awakening experience for yourself, if I understood you correctly. And I would love you to elaborate on that more. So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, I think why I wanted to write the book, one of the reasons, first of all, let me say I wrote it 3 times. And the first time I wrote it was more like a therapeutic exercise for myself, to really be able to put all of that on paper and have some distance and get a perspective. And really my awakening came long before my daughters were born. They were born 1 pound each. So I had what, you might call the honeymoon phase of awakening, where I had a extended period in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, and I was part of an ashram with Ramana Maharshi's teaching, and I had thought that I had reached the mountaintop.
Yes.
And it was a very wonderful period of time, but I didn't really have challenge in my life at that time. I was surrounded by profound teachings, doing a very intensive kind of natural practice. And I had my first child, and she was born at home. And that was everything went beautifully well with that. And 2 years later, my twins were born 3 months early. And so what I feel that it did for me is exactly what you said. It brought me through the trials and the tribulations so that I could embody the experience that I had many years before. So it really helped to solidify my awakening and bring it more into the body and bring it into my life. It really taught me, like, how does this live when challenge presents itself, when difficulty presents, when you're living just amidst an ordinary life with children, with work, with schedules, with complete unexpected details, appointments, and wasn't really time for me to have what might be called a traditional practice. My practice then became my life with my children.
Right. That's amazing to me. I mean, I've been in India for a long time, and I've been in all kinds of teachings, and you hear about all these yogis who sit out in the mountains in the Himalayas, and they're all so peaceful. But somehow I know that this day and age in our world, in our society, we're not meant to do that. And
Right.
you don't really know how grounded you are in your own being unless you're tested. So would you say that's what you've experienced?
Yes, definitely. Well, what really helped me is I was in the middle of a very dark night, and I think I write about that in the book. And I really felt that I had failed spiritually. I felt that, everything was over. I had had an opportunity and somehow I had blown it. And a friend, a
Uh,
friend
I don't mean to make light of it. It's all too familiar. Go ahead.
and one of my dear friends that was with me in the other group where we were practicing together for 10 years, she came knocking on my door one day and said, I know about a teacher that you really need to meet.
Mhm.
And I said, oh, I'm really finished with teachers. I'm done. This is, what I have to deal with. I don't know what can help me. But she had a cassette with her, and the cassette was from Adyashanti, and he had just started teaching. And
Mhm.
so as soon as she left, I couldn't wait to listen to it. And even though I was, resisting at the time, but I was very, very curious. And exactly what the tape was about was the trials and tribulations that Christ had gone through. It was the mysteries of Christ. And
Yes.
he was speaking about the dark night of the soul.
Mhm.
And it was exactly what I was going through. And it was music to my ears. And what he had said is that awakening is only the beginning.
Mm.
It's getting your foot in the door. And then
Yes.
everything else follows.
Mhm.
That's all of it follows. You have all of these trials and tribulations. And the purpose of all of that is for love to wear your face.
Mm.
And when I heard that, I said, I have to meet this teacher. And he was giving a satsang in our town that week. And I
Mhm.
went and I just went right down to sit in the front. And I realized that he was a free being. And
Mhm.
mostly, not only that, but that he didn't need anything from me. I
Mhm.
didn't need to behave in a particular way, wear white. I could just show up exactly as I was. And that everything shifted there. It already had been shifting some, just because it was 2 years and I was starting to adjust to having my life turned upside down and inside out. And, but that night when I went home, I went into each of my daughters right at the end of their beds, and I just felt so much gratitude
Wow.
for them coming into my life. And I said, wow, this is exactly what was necessary. I mean, there isn't any problem here. And I
Yes.
just felt, wow, these are my teachers.
Absolutely.
And it just shifted all of my spiritual concepts, beliefs, and ideas that I held about what spiritual awakening looks like, what practice looks like.
Yeah.
The group that we had been a part of wasn't really friendly to families, mostly single people. So there I came, I had a family, and I just found out that wasn't for me then anymore. I needed to just be in my ordinary life.
Mhm.
It was
Mhm.
amazing. And it
Yeah.
still is. My daughters are 19,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it's not a convenient life in any way. And I wouldn't give any part of it back.
Yeah. Now, when I read about them and when I see their pictures, sometimes you post them on Facebook, and I saw them on your website. I just feel like they're angels, and I don't mean that in the spiritual la-di-da kind of way. I just feel like exactly what you're saying. They were sent to you for they it's like they chose a life like that just to help you, and you are such a fantastic vehicle of sharing that with your audiences, because
Hmm.
today I feel like it's not known enough of what to do with pain, what to do with suffering, what to do when your life isn't the norm anymore.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's very easy to have a transcendent kind of experience, which is what people think spiritual awakening is.
Mm-hmm.
That you're going to transcend your human problems, that it's a solution for that.
Mm-hmm.
But actually what it allows you to do is to come directly into your life as it is and to address all of the different things that we've run away from, we've
Mm-hmm.
hidden from, and kind of this up and out type of experience to be beyond. But here, for me, it's about coming down and in, coming down and fully into your body, being the body that you are, being the life that you've been given, and finding all of the jewels in your own life.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. What were some of the transformations that happened to you along the years that you were embodying this through your situation?
Probably many. Let's see.
Name three.
Well, I think one of the main one is I really learned this whole idea of trying to change our external circumstances or other people. Control, the personal will.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like throughout all of these years, my personal will, it's kind of like spirit has been grinding away at that, grinding and grinding and grinding. And that I've come more into a relaxation, you could say, of trusting. I was the kind of person that didn't really trust very well. And also when my daughters came, it felt there was a period of feeling it was very unfair because I had already worked so hard on my personal development and, moving up and away from my family. I grew up in a very dysfunctional family, as many people do. And I felt, wow, I had already done so much work. I'd worked with a therapist. I'd worked with one main teacher, and I lived in an ashram, and I thought, hadn't I done enough? So really getting this sense that the human spirit never ends.
Mm-hmm.
And then as far as how we can mature emotionally and spiritually, and for the divine and the human to really meet each other, that still continues. It still continues. But I see that what has really been burned out of me is this idea that I can change something rather than be just relaxing into myself and into life and noticing that then a transformation happens. Not through my efforts, but more through my relaxation. You could say my effort is showing up and not changing. Showing up letting everything be as it is. Kind of like taking this is a meditation that I always teach, is giving full allowance. When you sit down, just let everything be as it is, your thoughts, your sensations, your energy, whatever it is. And in that allowance, a transformation takes place. And that transformation is unknown until we actually, even in the moment, I can't say that I can pinpoint one exact transformation, but I can often look back and notice, wow, I don't do that thing that I used to do. It's just not here. I don't know where it went. It's just not here. I can't call it forward anymore. For instance, without mentioning any names, their dad, a huge transformation for me was letting that go and seeing that I was really in it by myself. I was going to be a single parent in this, and I wasn't able to change him or, his participation. And I spent many years trying to enlist a particular kind of involvement. And I exhausted myself doing that. And one day I noticed I'm not doing that anymore. And there's, wow, you know, that feels so much better. And in that, then what happened is the love that I still have for him. It's like when you fall in love with somebody, that love never changes.
Mm-hmm.
But when we have an agenda on top of it,
Wow.
we don't get to experience the love. So it shifted many of my relationships.
Mm-hmm.
With important people, because it's important for you know, when you have a family like this, it's important for us to have community. So I came out of this isolation of embarrassment, shame, thinking I did something wrong, all of those things that keep us in a sense, you know, feeling isolated, alone.
Yes.
So then, even and when we're doing that, we don't experience the gift of not feeling alone.
Yes.
Meaning it may not be, we may not be getting the supports that we would like, but there is always an opportunity of not feeling lonely in that.
Yes.
Of feeling that you're really, that there's a divine movement happening.
Mm-hmm.
That you can, that can't always be named.
That's
Yeah.
fabulous. Yeah. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I love hearing those stories. So now you teach meditation. You have intensives
Yes. Yeah. And retreats.
and
Mm-hmm.
retreats. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yes. Well, I'll tell you, I was teaching, I started teaching in 2001. I had been a student and a friend, you could say. Adi Shanti's become a very good friend of mine for 3 years. And we used to have satsangs at my house with a couple of other people that he had asked to teach.
Mm-hmm.
And when 9/11 happened, you know, about 9/11, when the towers, you know, were destroyed and many people were killed by that in New York. Well, I was living in California, but I'm from New York.
Oh.
And I knew some of the people that were involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
Although at the time I didn't know that that had happened. But there was a current that moved through me. I was actually in my driveway, getting out of my van, and I was about to close the door, and I felt this huge trauma, like a big movement of destruction that moved through me.
Mm-hmm.
And it said, go and sit. And that was the first day that I started sitting and inviting people to sit with me.
Mm-hmm.
And because up till that time, I had realized that I was everything, but I hadn't realized that I was nothing.
Oh.
So it was like an emptying out, you know, that I could be the fullness, but I could also be the destruction.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt this collective pain, and it really, it just was a message to sit and ask others to sit, because this is what sanity is. Sanity is about sitting together in our collective consciousness and letting all of this destruction fall away. You know, so it opened up to me our unconscious shadows. So when I work with people, I often invite the unconscious material to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the coming down into the body.
Mm-hmm.
You can have an awakening at mind and be able to have a sense of pure awareness and to feel really spacious. But that doesn't mean that it's gonna open up and address unconscious material.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what we carry with us from our earliest conditioning,
Mm-hmm.
from our ancestry, from, you know, what gets passed on. Because to me, then the inquiry was about, how can this be happening? You know, how can there still be so much violence and destruction? So I had to not point that whole thing too of pointing it out here. I had to turn that back and say, where does that live in me?
Yes.
So my sittings aren't just about having, a mental awakening or an awakening at the mind,
Mm-hmm.
but emptying out at the mind, yes, but also emptying out our old wounds, our
Mm-hmm.
emotional conditioning, the
Yes.
back side of the heart, all that's kind of tucked away in the recesses and the pockets.
Mm-hmm.
And then also descending all the way down into the gut, where we come into our deepest fears and our insecurities.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you come into a stability, and you get more and more uncomfortable with the unknown. So my work with people is very deep. It's really moving through all of these levels, awakening at mind, awakening at the heart, and awakening at the base of the belly, so that you can really be rooted in your legs, rooted in the base of the body, very grounded, and then feel a security that is not of this world.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't come from the outside. So that then when a explosion, like 9/11 hits, then you can be of service to that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge example, but when anybody comes with me, people come with their traumas, because meditation is it's a detoxification.
Mm-hmm.
It's detoxing out all of the mental and emotional conditioning that we carry
Mm-hmm.
back in the recesses of the body.
Mm-hmm.
So what I wanted to say about that, so I taught for probably 7 years in 2011, and I was on the East Coast and the West Coast. But then I took a 7-year break.
Uh-huh.
I just worked, I'm also trained as a body-centered psychotherapist in Hakomi. So I continued with my private practice with so many people, but I went into kind of like a cave period where I needed to really withdraw my energy and be with my family. It was too much to be having a public role as a teacher and to attend to my children.
Mm-hmm.
During that 7-year period, I call it my cave time, and I that's in the book also.
Yes.
That's when I feel like the shadows within me, the unconscious, really got to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the most fruitful period of my life,
Mm-hmm.
to really be with my children.
Mm-hmm.
So only recently did I start to come out and teach again publicly.
Oh.
So that it's fairly recent. So I've been around for a long time, but I've kind of took this time, which I think is important for all of us.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of traps there can be in being a teacher, where people start to identify with you as being a particular way. And if you're held as being different, it doesn't always allow you to look at your own shadows, to look at your own material.
Mm-hmm.
And often that, for some people, that doesn't happen. But I was really fortunate, and it was my daughters again that brought me home.
Yes.
I just recently, after I wrote the book, I started going around with the book in Europe and offering retreats again. I offer a retreat in Spain, and here at my house where we live, we have a sanctuary. We have a meditation almost every week. It's online.
Oh, wonderful.
People come and listen from all over the world. And some people gather here physically in the space. So we have both going on. We have the camera going on, plus the people here in the space. And I have a course coming up starting next month. It's called the Embodiment Intensive.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. And it's a 4-month course. And that's my baby. I love, that's something that developed in me over that 7-year period of doing my own work.
Mm-hmm.
And being at home, really looking at what is embodiment and how do we embody the fullness of our humanity.
Mm-hmm.
So the course is really about the marriage between the divine and the human,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to come fully into our humanness,
Mm-hmm.
which means having our emotional life, being able to express different experiences that we weren't able to express early on in life because perhaps we didn't have permission, or we didn't have the resources, or there wasn't safety,
Mm-hmm.
all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
So I call my space a soft place to land.
That's nice.
Yeah, and the first thing that we work on is safety, really creating a sanctuary. Because over the years, I'm not really surprised anymore, but there are so many people that are driven spiritually. And one of the primary reasons that they are is because they have had early trauma.
Yes.
And it's still, like the spiritual practice addresses some of that, but often you need to do deeper work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what my work is really about, that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and I learned a lot about trauma too through my daughters, because they both were born. It was a very traumatic birth experience. I mean, birth in and of itself is a trauma.
Yes. I know. I gave birth a natural way, and it was so traumatic. Even though I didn't go through anything like you did, I know any woman would tell you it's it's very traumatic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That process of being able to become comfortable in your own skin,
Yes.
to be able to, so through meditation and the work that I do, I see how it changes your neurology.
Mm-hmm.
When you can really settle in safety,
Mm-hmm.
in presence, that this part of the brain, the primitive brain, which maintains that fight, flight, freeze
Mm-hmm.
reflex, how
Yes.
we react to life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, through this deeper work, you can actually reorganize the neurology so that that starts to settle and the trauma can be released.
Wow.
And then you start to inhabit yourself more,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know?
Yes.
And I really feel that that's a process. It takes time.
Of course.
But
Mm-hmm.
awakening is the beginning.
Yes.
And I really feel that everything that we're given is for our benefit. When we can just let it be as it is and let it come all the way in and meet it,
Mm-hmm.
it's there to help us undo and unravel and unpack our luggage, our baggage.
Yes. Without security control.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, wow. It's fantastic. I really admire how you're one of the few people I know who are able to see uh, um, a difficult situation as a blessing. It's uh, it's rare. I mean, you're
Yeah.
probably used to it by now, but it's rare.
Yeah. Well, and it's not any fault of humanity.
Oh,
Of
it's
the
how we're trained.
exactly how we're trained,
Yeah.
because we're really, and I think it more so in Europe, in different cultures,
Mm-hmm.
really taught to, zip it up in the front and to maintain a particular kind of composure.
Mm-hmm.
Even in spiritual circles, it's
Totally.
even more so in spiritual circles to really zip it up.
Yeah.
But spirituality, when it's, the direct path and it's real and it's liberating, it's about unzipping everything and
Exactly.
letting everything empty out. And that often is messy.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. You, I believe I read it, I think it was on your website, where you say, do you have the courage to bring forth what the sword of Prajna?
Yeah.
What is that about?
Okay, good. Well, the name Prajna came to me um, after I met Adi Shanti. It just came to me 3 different times, and it taught me what it was.
Okay.
Yeah, but Prajna is it's the sharp sword of wisdom.
Oh,
It's discriminating wisdom, and it shows itself in many ways. And it's also something that everybody has. It's that innate, it's the intrinsic intelligence that
mm-hmm,
lives in all of us.
mm-hmm.
So there's prajna at mind, prajna at heart, and prajna at gut. So it's this really what's the word I want? Allowing this intrinsic knowing to be activated inside of you. So
Mm-hmm.
it's moving away from conceptual knowing and moving into what we already know inside.
Right.
You know, this is something I know it in myself, and I see it in so many people. When you say something and they say, I already know that. Like I know that. That like you know it in your blood, in your bones, and in your cells. Like that's that knowing. That's our spirit, you could say. That's the intelligence that lives us.
Mm-hmm.
But we were conditioned to not pay attention to that.
Yes.
We're conditioned to form concepts, to name and label an experience and say, oh, I know that.
Yes.
And then what we do is then we don't really get to see what it is exactly. Even with emotions, say prajna at the heart. Like we may say, oh, there's some grief or fear or anger here. Well, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
but even there, it would be removing the label of fear, anger,
Yes.
or grief, whatever it is, but taking that off and seeing what are these sensations. So there's energy or sensations,
Mm-hmm.
but as soon as we put a label on something, we stop it.
Yeah.
We put it in a holding pattern,
Yes.
and then it goes up into the mind, and then it's like, okay, so I just gained some information, but I didn't get to actually see what is this experience
Mm-hmm.
that's wanting to express itself through me,
Right.
either through release, some kind of opening.
Mm-hmm.
So prajna is I call it prajna in everybody, but it's the courage to be able to let this live you and to come out of concepts, to be able to live from your inner knowing.
Mm-hmm.
And we know it anyways, and we're upset when we don't live by our inner knowing.
Yes.
How you can say, oh, I know that, I know that.
Yes.
And I don't need you to tell me. It's like, okay, I know that you know it, but can you live it?
Yes.
To be courageous enough to live what you already know inside.
Mm-hmm.
My friend Mukti, who is Adi Shanti's wife,
Mm-hmm.
she talks about embodiment or awakening as it matures, as being able to become more and more comfortable with not knowing, with the unknown.
Yes.
And that is that dropping into prajna, dropping into a universal intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, you directly experience non-separation.
Yes.
Then it really evens out this way in which we divide things up. As somebody knows something more than I, or I'm not enough. It really works on our self-worth.
Yes.
Because if we're not in touch with prajna, our inner knowing, the trajectory is to look outside of ourselves for approval, for confirmation, for more achievement, more accomplishment. We're more driven than to add on to ourselves with the idea that someday I'll be enough, I'll know enough, I'll have enough self-worth. But here, this reverses that direction.
Right.
And we start to see, wow, I'm already enough. What I am is already enough. I don't need to add anything to this. And then it's a subtraction. You know, it's like an onion. It's peeling off the layers. You know, to be courageous enough to let all those layers fall off and to settle into your own power, you know, your own intrinsic life force. And to let that be your guide, you know. And at the heart, it feels like connectedness. You know, when you really open at the heart and you let the guardedness melt away, there's this natural sense of feeling connected to people, like walking around in a supermarket, so to speak, and just feeling this natural love for people.
Yes.
Or going to, for me, like I go to difficult meetings about my daughters. And there was a time where I just resisted, and still I don't enjoy these meetings. I can't say that they're my preference. It's not exactly how I want to spend my time. But I go to these meetings, and now people that, you know, I would feel opposition to, now it doesn't mean that I have to agree with them, but I can feel this deeper connection, that we're really the same, even though we're not agreeing.
Yes.
We're not necessarily in agreement on a relative, practical plane. And boy, does that feel so much better.
Yeah.
It seems like, it seems like it's advantageous for everybody.
Of course. And I'm sure people feel that too, no matter where they're at. I'm sure they sense that love coming from you and that connection, even though they probably don't know what it is.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
So what is Prajna up to for 2016?
Oh, well, right now, you know, with the holiday just kind of passing, I've had all of my 3 daughters home. My oldest daughter is at college, but she's been home for 3 weeks, 3 weeks, and she'll be home for 1 more week. So I've been very busy with my family at this time, and I'm just starting to prepare for the course that I offer. And every year it's a little bit different.
When does it start?
It starts, I don't have the date in front of me, but I think it's the 2nd weekend in February.
Okay. I will post on your website so people can go on your website and find the information.
Yeah, it's on my website. It's under the tab called Programs, and it's called the Embodiment Deep Immersion.
Oh, wonderful. Great name.
Yes, and we meet over a period of 4 months. And the reason I do it over so many months is because in 3 months, you can change a habit. But I add an extra month, you know, so that you can really integrate all that's been learned.
Yes.
We have a lot of silence together, guided meditation. We do dyads, really practical exercises and inquiries that get to this deeper material. And like I had said before, we create a group of safety, and everybody becomes friends. It's a little community. It becomes like a family. And then in the end, often, one of the disadvantages of the way that I teach sometimes is that people don't need to come back. You know, they really get what they need, and you get very fortified with a confidence
Yes.
in your awakening and in the process of embodiment and the emptying out.
Yeah.
So people still stay in touch with me through the meditations, because I really believe in having a meditation practice,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of how evolved we might think we are.
Yes.
Because we're all one, you may feel a certain amount of completion within yourself, and that's wonderful. But we're a collective. We're all connected. So there's how many billion people on the planet?
I lost count.
Yeah, it's growing so fast. And we're always in environments. And the
Yes.
more awake you become, when you really open to yourself, you become very sensitive. So it's easy to pick up in different environments that we travel.
Yes.
So it's important to check in with a teacher, to sit and to give yourself that space
Yeah.
to deepen, to continuously deepen and integrate
Mm-hmm.
all that we're here for, and so that you can really stand in your life and be a force, like like on Star Wars, be a force,
Yeah.
like Force Awakens.
That's great.
And to live without fear, to
Yes.
really be able to live with the deepest sense of security.
Yes.
So that's one of the main things. I start the year out with that, and that will end in May.
Mm-hmm.
And then in June, I'll be going to Europe. And I
Great.
have,
Come and visit me.
oh, I would love to. I would love to.
Yeah.
I'll be in the UK. I'll be part of a big yoga festival
Fantastic.
near London, doing satsang every day for a week, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a week-long retreat at the end of June in Spain.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll be at Isle of Man. I'll be in Ireland. And I don't have my schedule memorized, but a few other places in between.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I might be going to Sweden.
Oh, wonderful.
And where are you again?
I'm in Budapest, Hungary.
Oh yeah. So you're that's all, once you get to Europe, it's all close, right?
Yeah, everything is close. An hour here, an hour there, and you're everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I keep my online meditation going when I'm at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I offer that as a service. People make a donation when they're able to and when they want to.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something I just love to do. So I'll continue to do that. And I have satsangs around here, around California, that happen pretty regularly. And I guess the big thing that's going to be happening is we are creating a community. We're creating a actual physical location for spiritual practice, and we're creating an eco-village. So it will have a permaculture design. And there's already some people from Europe coming over to join us, because we'll be doing building. We're going to build eco-housing, like little economic, the little houses that you see?
Yes, yes.
We'll be making very economy efficient homes. And we'll have a huge garden. We'll be growing more food. We'll have a sanctuary for events. And one of our main services will be housing and caring and living together with young adults with disabilities, like my daughters.
Fantastic.
So they're driving this movement as well.
Wonderful.
Yeah, because they're 19 now, but the nest for me is not going to empty out.
Yes.
I'm not going to be going through that empty nest syndrome that many mothers go through, and fathers.
Yes.
But they need care. Libby will need care for the rest of her life, and Abby will probably be independent, but she still needs some support. So we want to create a community where we all live together and really take off the label special needs or
Yes.
disability, remove that, because essentially all of us have challenges,
Exactly.
whether it shows up as a physical disability or not. So it's really to be a community in support of each other,
Yes.
wherever you are in your journey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Sounds fantastic.
Yeah, so we were offered this property that we live in now to extend the land, and so we have it's not real huge, but it's a great location, very close to the city, but also in the country at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lot of nice land to build upon, and we have the California weather, but even though right now it's winter, we do get winter here. People who think California is warm and sunny all the time, it's not true.
I bet it's warmer than where I am.
Huge state, and we live up near the hills, so we do get a winter, and just above us are the ski resorts. So the snow, I mean, sometimes it will even snow where we live. Usually doesn't stick. But right above us, there's a tremendous amount of snow right now because we've been having lots of rainstorms.
Oh.
And that's very good for us because we've had many fires. So we want to consider, and just to say how this is the wave, this is the direction that I think spirituality is moving. It's really moving into, how do you take this into every part of life? Exactly. Your relationship to the land, to the people, to resources, to each other. So we're wanting to create a community where all of these, everything is considered in this way.
Yes.
We can have spiritual events, so-called spiritual events, but our lifestyle will be the spiritual event.
Yes.
Of the human body maturing in every way possible.
Wonderful. That sounds very exciting, Proja. It's wonderful. Yeah. I'm so glad we finally connected. We've been trying to connect for a while. And I'm so glad we finally have, because it's been a pleasure speaking with you and learning more about what you do and more about your wonderful daughter teachers.
Yes.
Yes. So thank you so much for sharing your life with us and sharing your what's that? Oh, yes, the book. Yes, thank you. Yes, yes.
You wanted me to show that at some point.
Yes, very good.
It's on my website also, where you can get it from me directly, or you can get it from Amazon, the Kindle version.
Wonderful book. So there's so much humor in it, in spite of all your trials and tribulation. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun writing it.
I bet. I bet. And your memory, my goodness, I don't know how you did that. Great.
Well, it was really interesting because it's when you start to write, the memory just seems to come. I mean, I could actually, it was like I went back in time. And I could see all of it, hear and feel all of it. Amazing. And that's the experience that I want the reader to have. You know, when they read it, it's like that they can be right in that experience and see how that relates to their own life.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you certainly accomplished that. It comes across.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Well, I'm really glad we got to connect too.
Yeah, good.
And it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much again, and thank you everyone for watching. It's been a wonderful session together with Proja Ginty, and I will be posting her website address so you can see what events are coming up and partake in them. And then in the meantime, God bless, and have a wonderful 2016.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Nurit, and we'll talk again soon.
Yes, I'm sure.
Yes. Have a lovely day. It's probably your evening.
Evening for me, and it's morning for you. And have a good day wherever anybody is.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Take good care. Lots of love.
Love to you too.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.